And what is going on, everyone? And welcome to a very special edition of Houston Texans football on the Bleacher Report Network. I am one part of your show, Ruben Calvillo, dropping daily Houston Texans content on my YouTube channel, 713 Houston Sportcast. My co host doing the same, but adding in some Astros and Rockets. The Astros currently about to face the Chicago White Sox. The Rockets don't know who they are targeting in free agency. Well, they know, we don't. Excited to find out. And we got the Houston Texans in minicamp. But Harley, how's it going, brother?
Doing great, man. Doing fantastic. A big sigh of relief for a lot of Texans fans too. So you can go ahead and take your sigh of relief as everyone was pretty much panicking around
Panic
C.J.
is the right
Stroud.
word, man. Before we get into it, shout out to Bleach Report allowing us to come on here, talk Houston Texans football. Always a big shout out to the man upstairs. Yes, on day one of mandatory minicamp, CJ Stroud not only was he doing his individual workouts, talking to his teammates, but he was throwing the football, Harley. What he didn't do during OTAs, he did during mandatory minicamp. And soon as that happened, immediate sigh of relief, like you said. There's nothing going on. He spoke to the media after. We'll get to that in a second. But your thoughts on our quarterback throwing the football?
It's a great sign. It was reported that he could throw by whenever minicamp started, basically. And shout out to Aaron Wilson, got the report right. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it was precautionary. A lot of it was, you know, wonder and speculation that maybe he won't throw. But it seemed like the Texans were very confident that this wasn't nothing
Mm.
serious. We heard from national media reporters as well that this was nothing serious. And yet the panic button was staring in front of people's faces, and some of them pressed it, some of them weren't. And hell, you even had some people where, like a Trey Wingo or Damian Woody, that were very much calling this a red flag and this should be panicking in Houston. And I thought that was a little too far for the situation. I'm glad he's throwing. I'm happy to see it. I mean, according to CJ, he said there's no shoulder surgery.
No.
He's fine. He's been throwing before. They just didn't see it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he implied how he got hurt also, Harley. When
Yes.
he was talking about his off-season workouts, the first thing he said was, I've been locked in. And then he said something where I kind of put two and two together. Whenever CJ Stroud said I PR'd and all my things this offseason, that told me that he was in the lab, he was
Mhm.
working, and maybe that's where the injury came. So happy to see CJ Stroud out there. I said every day that goes on that he doesn't throw, the concern grows. And I said as soon as he goes out there and throws the footballs, all systems go. Let's ready. I'm ready. Well, I'm ready, Harley. CJ Stroud out there throwing the football. There have already been some highlights. One of them to the rookie Jaden Higgins on the sideline. Kamari Lassiter in coverage. Higgins comes down with that one arm, man. You love to see that. It just feels good, man, whenever, seeing CJ Stroud out there. Like it really does. We got our franchise quarterback, and I don't think I'll ever kind of be nonchalant and cool when it comes to CJ Stroud, if that makes
Mhm.
sense, Harley.
Yeah, I
I
see. I
think
know what you're saying.
I think no matter what he does, my overreaction rate is just going to be up there. But glad to see that I was once again a prisoner of the moment. CJ Stroud, wish you the very best, man. Let's go.
The best thing from hearing him talk yesterday was took off season very serious.
Locked
That
in.
was that was the quote right there. I thought a minor thing nobody really talked about was he already mentioned week 1 LA Rams.
Mm,
We're in June.
11th.
And this man's talking about week 1 LA Rams. He talked about how he took the offseason very serious. Some visible stuff with CJ looked like he got a little bigger.
Mhm.
So I just think at the end of the day, he worked really hard this offseason, and he had a sore shoulder. That's it. He just worked
That's
off
it.
too hard. That's all it is. Nothing to it. I'm glad that he disposed of the rumors of shoulder surgery, because I know a lot of people would have continued to speculate if he didn't, deny any of those rumors, and he flat out did. No shoulder surgery. Says he's fine. Nothing crazy. So yeah, man, I'm right there with you. It's all systems go. He looked fantastic day one of minicamp. Mark Vandermeer was talking very high of how
Mhm.
CJ Stroud looked like as to throwing the football and everything. And I mean, when you're just looking at the clips, you're looking at drop it in the bucket type passes, dots, lasers, seeds, synonyms
Mhm.
everywhere. I mean, it was just great to see CJ Stroud back there flinging it and doing his thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it was good because when you notice some of those clips, and, shout out to guys who were there at practice: Cody Stutes, Landry Locker, Jonathan M. Alexander, Adam Wexler, Will Kunkel. They all do a fantastic job covering the team. And I'm not sure if you noticed Harley, but when you see those clips, you know who you hear in the background? You hear Nick Caley,
Yeah.
and it's in multiple videos where he's just hyping up whatever's going on. And I'm starting to grow on Nick Caley. We heard CJ say, I buy into people, not systems. And I think that that's exactly what I wanted to hear, because we heard not only Nick Caley say that, right? He said, I'm going to invest into the player, not only what they do on Sunday, but what they do Monday through Saturday. But we've heard that also from D'Amico Ryans. So I think this is going to be a match made in heaven, Harley, between CJ Stroud and Nick Caley. They both speak very highly of each other. And, CJ made the joke that Nick Caley's always calling him on his phone. So I'm excited for this pairing, man.
It immediately made me think of the storyline when Bobby Slowick got fired. That quote made me think of the first time CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowick met each other.
Mm.
And there was this rumored argument that happened before we even drafted CJ Stroud, a confrontation, if you want to call it, between Bobby
Oh,
Slowick
I
and CJ Stroud.
remember
And
Bobby
that's
Slowick.
what it reminded me of is I don't buy into the people, I buy into the system,
Mm.
and so that's what it made me think of. I went, huh, is this a little I know it's not a jab, because that's never been conformed or denied, but it made me think of that moment specifically, and to hear him praise Nick Caley. And I mean, he went on for almost a minute and a half of just praising Nick Caley, talking about what Nick Caley getting up at 6 in the morning, nonstop phone calls. And he said that motivates him. A little annoyed, jokingly, of course, but he said that does motivate him, to become a better quarterback. You see come on, man, that's anybody. You see your boss. Hell, we could just make this, as simple as just your workplace. You see your boss working his ass off every damn day, and he's 5 in the morning doing his thing, and you're clocking into work at 7, 8 in the morning. You're like, oh man, he makes a lot of money and he puts in the hours. And you know what? Let me help him out a little bit more. Let me come in an hour extra or some sort of
Mhm.
way. You see your coaches doing the most. You want to reciprocate what they're doing, man. And that's the swarm culture. That's exactly what D'Amico praises. It's the special work ethic and relentless mindset. To me, CJ Stroud described what Nick Caley does to fit the swarm culture and why he is the new offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. It's no disrespect to Bobby. I just think he was too early. I think he
Yeah,
came in too fast.
and that's fine. He has room to grow. It would not surprise me if Bobby Slowick, later on in the future is a head coach, or once again calling plays in this league. I love how you bring up the swarm mentality, because before practice, we've seen this now multiple times. Head coach D'Amico Ryans, general
Mm.
manager Nick Casario, running sprints. That's leading by example, Harley. That's exactly the exact type of situation you just described. Hey, I'm seeing my bosses come in early, put the work in. Why not me? Why can't I do
Mhm.
that also? And I think it's going to be, very, very contagious. I think pretty soon, man, it will not surprise me if we start seeing some players do these sprints with D'Amico, with general manager Nick Casario, just to get some extra brownie points in. But I love it. I love that everyone's out there. I love that we heard, some different reports day one compared to day two, but we're still on day one right now. We got about 5 minutes left of day one until we hit the 15-minute mark. We get our first sign of Nick Chubb,
Mm.
and man, Harley does not look like he just came off of a broken foot. Does not look like he came off of an ACL. I'm trying not to get too excited about Nick Chubb,
Same.
but the way I hear him talk, right? The quote
Mm.
that we talked about last week, where he said, I go back to Cedar High Gym, and the membership's cheap. They have a water fountain there. The video of him squatting 600 pounds just last week, like, Nick Chubb, you've done it before. Can you do it again? And what I mean by do it again is overcome a significant knee injury to the same knee, by the way, that he messed up in Georgia. And he's mentioned it too. I've had two major injuries. I am rooting for Nick Chubb. And man, if it works out, Harley, you got a 1-2 punch. Hell, you might have your
I'm
starting running back because we haven't even seen Joe Mixon.
That is true, and there's some worry there for me because I kind of wonder what's going on there. I know Aaron Wilson did say that he was out of the walking boot and he was, heard some good stuff with Joe Mixon. I still am looking. I need an APB out on Damian Pierce. I don't know where he's at either. Where's
Yeah,
Damian Pierce at, man?
he was
Or
on
I mean,
Instagram Live.
yeah, man. DP he's done. Like, what we signed Nick Chubb and he ain't gonna be here no more. What's going on,
He
man?
ain't swarming.
Cause buddy, you got to start practicing too, my guy. Like your job's on the line, my dude.
Mhm.
Like I hope he realizes that, and and I'll take it back if he's actually hurt, But I mean, Nick Chubb, come on, man. It's tough not to get excited about this when you can legitimately have a RB1, RB2 duo here. And what Nick Chubb brings, you talked about, he talked today to in the podium for day two of minicamp. But I mean, he just talked about how he's the perfect fit for this swarm culture. He saw everyone. He said he wasn't sure why they signed him, and then he got into the building, and everyone's heads down, working,
Mm.
doing their thing, and he said, "Oh, I fit with this team. This is, like, and again, man, the swarm culture again, exactly. Inject that shit into my veins. I mean, it's just the swarm culture. We will talk about it nonstop for the entirety of D'Amico Ryans' tenure. This to me is we're greedy for talent. We're gonna continue to add talent as much as possible, and we're gonna do every step we gotta take in order to try to get to being a Super Bowl team. That's what you do by adding Nick Chubb. Like you
Mhm.
are looking at every resource there is possible to improve this football team, and you did it in a big way, improving the backfield.
I like how we were having the discussion between J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb. And now that we have Nick Chubb and we see not only was he here to be the RB2, but also here to reinforce the culture of the
Mhm.
swarm mentality. Man, Nick Chubb was perfect, and like I said, I'm wishing him the very best. It sounds like he knows it's not going to be easy and there's still a long way to go, but wishing him the very best. We also got to see, what I've noticed the last 2 days, Harley? John
Mm.
Mechie not being able to hang on to the football. And I think the one thing you can judge during OTAs and minicamp, hands.
Yeah.
And it's been multiple times. I'm talking about maybe at least 3 videos, whether he's supposed to be the main part of the video or in the background. John Mechie is dropping the football. Not not
Yeah.
not good, man. He's fighting for his life right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can reciprocate the same feeling that I have for Damian Pierce that I do with John Mechie.
Mm.
And John Mechie is physically out there, and I'm still trying to put an APB out on John Mechie as well too, because my goodness, somebody take a look at where his hands are, because they don't look like they're supposed to be. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's been quite some time that we've seen John Mechie. There's a lot of hope with him, and I understand it, but that's done with now, buddy. The good feelings are done. I always will wish him the best, and I will say it like we always do. I will wish you the best in your future endeavors, because I just don't see him making the roster considering what you got at wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you already got four you can name immediately, and two out of them four made a splash for day one and day two of minicamp. So there's four receivers. There's only two or maybe three spots left for the wide receiver group. And these little clips and snippets we seen of John Mechie ain't looking good right now.
You know, I'm starting to wonder if whether or not he'll be there at training camp, whether or not they try to take a look at
Mm,
another wide receiver, because I mean he's dropping the ball, ladies and gentlemen, and it's noticeable. It's noticeable. Only 2 days of mini camp, and we are noticing that John Mechie cannot hang on to the football, and we knew it was going to be hard for him to make this wide receiver group even before the draft. And then
yeah.
they brought in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. And like you mentioned, the last 2 days, these wide receivers have made some plays. We already discussed that Jaden Higgins one-handed a catch. What about the one that was on video from Mr. Cole Thompson, Christian
Mm,
Kirk, one-handed back of the end zone, 2 feet in. Once again, man, we're forgetting about Christian Kirk. We're forgetting that when healthy, he's a damn good wide receiver, a top 20 wide receiver.
yeah.
And we heard that it was multiple times today of 30 plus gain. And when I'm talking about 30 plus yards, explosive is what we
Mm.
get from Christian Kirk, man. So uh, these wide receivers, man, this is the group that I am excited to see on the field.
I just, I was just unsure if Christian Kirk. I heard some Jags fans say that he was uh their trash that we took, So,
Shout out to
you know,
UCF.
it's good to shut up some dumbass fans every once in a while. It always is, because right now the clips, if that's trash, then my goodness, the Jaguars need to start recycling and taking a look at their stuff, man. Because what y'all throwing away is hey, I'll take your trash and turn it into gold, because
Mm,
that's what the Houston Texans does. This swarm mentality, this culture, this identity of D'Amico Ryans, we are used to taking other people's litter and turning it into something pretty nice. We did just that with Foley Fatukasi. He
mm.
played fantastic here with the Texans last year, and I am expecting some of the same with Christian Kirk. Look, and I mean, like you mentioned, the top 20 wide receiver. He had himself a day today of day two mini camp, and I mean, he was everywhere on Twitter. There was many people talking about Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, as we heard Derek Stingley, I think it was, or Kalen
Mhm.
Bullock. One of them said that he's the slot guy. So
Oh, that was
we
Kalen Bullock.
yeah, that was Kalen Bullock. And I mean, there was one tweet, and I'm forgetting specifically who it was. I apologize. But they said CJ Stroud consistently attacked Christian Kirk over and over and over again. So that is what you like to hear. That
Mm.
is music to the ears of Texans fans, because when, and I mean, have the Houston Texans ever had a slot receiver? Yeah,
Shout out to Bruce Ellington.
I mean, him or Kenny Stills. Like,
That one good year of Kenny Stills.
hey man, that was a special, pretty good damn year. But
Cecil Shorts, he had a pretty good slot year.
yeah, take some
Kiki
Cecil
Kuti
Short.
against the Colts.
That's the only time he was good. Don't until the fourth quarter started. Then he'll fumble the ball. Nate Washington.
Oh, hey,
That's a
oh,
pool. That's a pool.
wow.
That's a pool. Like that is. I'm being honest, man. we haven't had any slot
No.
receiver really in Texans history. And so, Christian Kirk, you want to put yourselves as the best slot receiver in Texans history. There's not much to add there, but hey, buddy, you can be first and foremost. I I wanted to ask you this one. Day 2 was all Christian Kirk. Day 1 was all Jaden Higgins.
Yes.
And it made me question, how much are we understating the value, the impact that Jaden Higgins could have on this roster?
Which is why I put the tweet out there like Jaden Higgins has how many yards, and I left that blank and question mark, and I left that up to the people, and everyone was saying, dude, 600, 700 plus. And when you look at it on paper, I feel like you should put Jaden Higgins in the top 3. Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins. And here's the thing. Nico Collins, when healthy, is one of the best wide receivers
Mhm.
in the NFL. He is also having a strong mini
Yeah.
camp. We're just not mentioning him because we know who he is, and that's the Houston Texans #1 wide receiver. 2 years ago, Christian Kirk, in his first year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, had over 1,100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy. Those two themselves draw attention. Those two themselves are game planned by defensive coordinators. And now you're adding in another weapon in a 6'4" wide receiver who has 4'3", 4'4" speed. He's gonna have these one-on-one opportunities, Harley. And we already saw him working on that Nico Collins slant. And if that was a live play and the safety slips like CJ Gardner Johnson slipped,
Mm-hmm.
he would have took it to the crib. So I agree with you, man. I would say 650 plus yards, 4 plus touchdowns. I would say 4 is my bottom, and I think that's a fantastic year 1 for Jaden Higgins. But if these wide receivers are healthy, it's gonna be a pick your poison, and we really don't know.
I mean, 6'4", fluid route runner. He just looks smooth out there. Like, he stole the show day 1 of minicamp. And I'm like looking at him and I'm kind of wiping my eyes. I'm going, Nico Collins or Jaden Higgins? Because I
Man,
couldn't tell.
I I
Because
I said
there's,
Mike Evans.
yeah, I mean, you mentioned the play down the sideline. And I mean, Kamari Lassiter is draped all
He's
over him.
there. He's there.
And hell of a pass by CJ Stroud. But it's
Ooh.
just a great catch by Jaden Higgins there. We've seen him doing some red zone drills. I'm looking at right around the 600, 700 yards mark. But his touchdowns, I might be looking at 6 touchdowns for Jaden Higgins.
But
You
then you
know,
got to think, man. Then
oh, I know.
what's Christian Kirk getting? And then
Him
what's
too.
Nico getting? And then that all ties to, okay, if they're getting this, how is CJ Stroud playing in year 3?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. This is fun to talk about because there's only one way to go with this offense, Harley, and that's up. We've seen a bad Houston Texan offense be in the postseason. We don't know what a good Houston Texan offense could potentially get us. But man, if and then what about Jalen Noel?
Yeah, whatever impact he has, I know we haven't seen him on at minicamp lately, so I don't know what's going on with him. He's kind of been not out there, it seems like, but he has been off to the sideline. But yeah, I mean, we can't diminish what little impact he might have too as a rookie. I just think Higgins might have some more touchdowns than what we think just because of the red zone threat. I want to know, do the Houston Texans implement some more red zone opportunities for not just Nico Collins, but if they find that trust with Jaden Higgins, you can find a lot more red zone scenarios with him as your other opposite wide receiver. And then what's so good is he's 6'4", he's a big receiver. He can block.
Mm.
he can block too. Like, he just his height and weight alone is going to make him a half decent blocker. And add the will to block on top of it, because Nick Caley mentioned it is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Everybody will block. And I loved hearing that from our OC, Nick Caley, because hell, and I know that's just so tiny quote right there, but it excites you as a Texans fan
It does.
because damn it, that's the mentality you need. Like it ain't selfish ball. It ain't Deontay Johnson type of football. It is unselflessness. It is continuing to finish the play through the whistle. That is what you want on this team, and that's why I got so excited hearing that quote from Nick Haley.
It is a lunch pail, bring your lunch pail to work type of
Mhm.
offense. Like everyone is going to get their hands dirty. And you know what that sounds like, man? That sounds like the city of Houston.
Yes,
Like,
it is.
like just
Hmm.
grinding. We're gonna do this together. We are a family. Harley, this is tying in. I'm starting to see this culture that they were speaking of, and I'm like, what do you mean culture? Your culture's already there, but no, and it's just with this new addition of Nick Cayley, I'm seeing the early signs of this could potentially work out. And we talk about the camaraderie within the team and how if a player believes that the coach believes in them, then they'll do anything for them. And it's starting to feel that way. I'm kind of drifts there.
I mean, if anybody was speaking and implying about a Super Bowl parade here in Houston, we had a very special guest the day two minicamp, and JJ
JJ.
Watt, man, talked about how Houston's a football town, and
Yep.
he acknowledged the Astros and the Rockets, but he is 1,000% right. Houston is a football town. I cannot wait till that day comes. I cannot wait till that special day, that special moment comes. And we are just going to be draped in either happiness, tears, a mix of both. It is going to be a glorious day here in Houston when that day calls upon itself. And I was happy to see JJ there. I was also kind of eye rolled because why are you at the podium, big dog? But then I remember it is JJ Watt. So he's a quote grabber. I mean, if you want a quote, JJ Watt will give you a quote. So the media was very happy to talk to JJ Watt.
And JJ himself, he loves to be in front of the camera. So,
He sure
you know,
does.
I had no problem with JJ Watt being out there. I think his shirt he had on though. Where do
Fire.
we get that?
Yes.
Where do we get? Because that is some drip. That is some drip that you're able to take into the club.
Dog,
Um,
he finds some crazy Houston Texans gear drip, and I'm just like, where are you buying this at, fool? Like, let us
he's
know the
gatekeeping.
secrets.
He's gatekeeping. That's what he's
For
doing.
sure. For sure. He
He-
knows somebody. He got a plug somewhere.
And you know what? The Texans are not gatekeeping. And this is a conversation for next episode on Friday. And that is the offensive line. Harley, I think offensive line, the starting offensive line is solidified. We've now seen the same offensive line thrown out there, all practices of organized team activities and all practices of mandatory mini camp. And that is Cam Robinson at left tackle, Lakin Tomlinson at left guard, Jake Andrews at center, Titus Howard at right guard, and Blake
Mm-hmm.
Fisher at right tackle. It's I mean, if we get to training camp and that's the first O line thrown out there, I mean that's the nail in the coffin. But as of right now, all signs are pointing to that offensive line being number one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's starting to grow more and more into the feeling that that is going to be your starting offensive line. We'll see whenever they roll into training camp and everything. Does Ariante Ursary start, pushing and shoving his way to try to attack that right tackle one spot? But I am starting to feel just like you. I'm inclined to say that this might be the guys as your first offensive line group.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to say thank you, everyone who will be a part of this episode, who has watched this episode. It means the absolute world. That was Harley. I am Ruben. For more Houston Texans content, we will see you on Friday as we break down whatever the hell the Houston Texans have done between now and then. We'll see you guys soon. Have a blessed day.